to our special Simple Scrapbooking School live training. I'm so excited for those of you who are able to join me live this morning, as well as super grateful for all of those who will be watching in the replay. So, and now I have to, there we go, I'm gonna mute myself in my monitor there. So what I wanted to do this morning was do three things. I want to give you a tour of the classroom. We're going to walk through and make sure you understand how everything works so that you can get the most out of the experience, and there may be some options that you weren't aware of. And I want to walk step by step through each of the lessons and give you some additional insights, some additional perspective on why I think this lesson is important and how I want you to carry that knowledge into the future, and also thinking about how you want to revisit this material, because Simple Scrapbooking School is designed to be something that you revisit when you need to. You have your workbook there as this reference book that you have created for your hobby. This is your roadmap, your plan for Simple Scrapbooking. But there's going to be times when you feel a little bit unclear again, where you're not sure how you want to proceed or what's really filling you up, so you need to revisit it. And then finally, I want to answer any questions that you have about the class itself or the questions that have already arisen in your mind because of the class. And I know that there's a lot, and we've already had some really great discussion in the comments, and it's been, it's actually pretty incredible. We've only been open for a little more than a week now. We opened a week ago Friday, and there's already several people who have completely finished the class who did in the first weekend. And as a teacher, that's one of my biggest joys, is creating an experience not only that you're able to get a lot out of, but that you're able to finish and feel that sense of completion and satisfaction on. And that was something that was super important to me with Simple Scrapbooking School. So when you do have a question, there is a comment box right here on the live stream page. So you can leave a comment there. And if you see a comment that you like, that you really want me to answer, please like that question, and so that I will answer the ones that have the most likes first. And again, this can be something that's specific to the class, something that's related to a question that came into your mind. And really, this is such a kind of a foundational discussion about how you approach scrapbooking. Almost any question is fair game here. We're going to run just about an hour today. I will be very sensitive to your time. I know we all have very busy Saturdays, especially as we're starting to get into spring here. Though here in Illinois, I'm not sure how springy it is. It's I think it's in the 20s right now, and all week long it's going to be in the 20s and 30s, and I think we're going to get some snow. So we're getting one of those one last cold spells, and I know that's affecting a good portion of the country this weekend and into next week. So I know most of you know me pretty well by now, but if you don't know me, there's a couple things that I want to share with you. And that's I came to this as a digital scrapbooker in 2008. I was just starting out, and I started Simple Scrapper as a way to document my own learning. And I really thought that digital was the way of simple, that's what people were going to be doing into the future to simplify their experience. But what I discovered is that's just one of the options and one of the ways, and that simple for everyone looks so different. And that's really where we've evolved at Simple Scrapper, is helping you find clarity around what works best for you so that you can do more of that and enjoy your hobby and get a lot out of it. And also respect that answer changes over time. It can change within a year, and most definitely it's going to change across years. And so Simple Scrapbooking School kind of has distilled that understanding into this series of steps, this process that will take you from, why you're a scrapbooker at all, down to what you're going to do next. So hopefully you have found it very stepwise and progressive, that each question builds on the next, leading you to this place where you can know what you're going to be working on for the next 3 months, and feel that sense of confidence that you've made the right decisions. You know it's going to get done because you're working at that intersection between what fills you up and what fits your life. All right. thank you all for being here this morning. I'm showing that we've got 20 viewers on live, and I know that there's 625 of you that are part of this this wonderful group of those who purchased the class during our pre-sale period. So I'm so grateful for all of that. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to switch over to the screen share mode and tell you a little bit more about the class. I have one more point I want to make before that, and that's that how Simple Scrapbooking School fits into kind of this new plan we have. Many of you have noticed we've kind of done a little bit of evolution over the past year, and this class was really the foundation of it, is that I knew that when you guys were going through previous refresh retreats, there was a certain degree of repetition, and I tried to underscore the importance of revisiting it, but everyone had very different needs and interests, and I didn't want to lose the fun, the enlightening, the reconnection with your hobby that was the core mission of the refresh retreats. And so a lot of that foundational material has been moved out into this class so that you can visit it on your own schedule when you need it and come to refresh ready to be refreshed. And so what our overall schedule looks like is that the first month of every season, we have a planning day, and that's just a one day. I'll often do a video or a webinar introducing the public and reintroducing you all to basically the things that are at the very end of this class, how to set your priorities and action items. Now, those of you who have taken Simple Scrapbooking School, you will be totally armed with everything you need to fill out your seasonal planner and move on from there. And those who are doing it for the first time, members of the public, they will be hopefully intrigued that they want to learn more and feel more confident in setting those priorities and want to take this class. And so that's like a tiny little thing in the first part of the quarter. And then in the second month of the quarter, we do the refresh retreat. It's where all of our members come together to really feel reinvested in the hobby and reconnected with each other and just get jazzed up again about scrapbooking. And then finally, in the third month, this is the final piece we're still working on, is the seasonal exploration. And this is kind of just a mini class to challenge you to make sure that you're keeping yourself on your toes and digging into the stories that you really want to tell. And then we'll repeat that every quarter. We'll do the same things again and again so that you constantly feel inspired and motivated to scrapbook. All right, let's switch to that screen share. Again, if you do have a question, please leave it below in the Facebook comments area. There's an add a comment area. You don't want to check the also post on Facebook because then that would tell other people that you're here. But if you want to keep it private, just add the comment and then press post. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to do application window, and here you have the classroom. Okay. So we're here in the Simple Scrapbooking School classroom. And if you've taken a class here before, you may already be familiar with how our classrooms are set up. But I'm going to just do a brief overview of the logistics for those who haven't been in one of our classrooms before. So this bar here at the top, this is your progress bar. And you can see mine is empty because I've not started the class yet. And it'll say not started. Once you click a lesson complete, then it will start showing your progress and your course status will change to in progress. That's one of the big questions we've had. And if you've been around for a really long time, you know this is a little bit different than how it used to be because we used to have to press a button to say start taking class. But now basically you're already in the class and it's up to you to start doing the lessons. We have our intro video here, just giving you a little bit more perspective on why I created the class. And then we get into the real meat. We have your workbook here. This is where you can download the beautiful workbook that is a pure companion to the class. This is definitely not a bonus or extra. This workbook is very core to completing the exercises because you'll see whether you are reading the lessons or listening to them in the audio, at the end of every single lesson, I'm referring you back to the workbook to basically do the work of this class. There's our big creative project, which we'll go into in a little bit, and then a lot of reflection. And this is very much, it's almost like a mission statement for your hobby. It's or a business plan if you come from that world. It lays out what's important to you and how you're going to get it done and the very next steps so that you walk away knowing what you're going to do next and what's important to you, not just this big picture. But the big picture is what's going to be so important for you to continue basically weighing your options. There'll always be new projects. There'll always be new products to buy, new classes to take. But if you can revisit this and vet that opportunity based on the work that you've done here, you will make more decisions that you're proud of and that you can finish. Because I know there's so many classes out there that I would love to take, but I only have a limited amount of time, just like you. And so when you can align those choices with what's most important, you will be much happier with them in the long run. So after the workbook, we have our optional audio course, and you can download each lesson individually as an MP3 file and add it to your favorite podcast player directly on your device, or you can listen right here directly in the browser as a playlist to the entire course. And the whole thing runs about 45 minutes. And so to me, it's also a nice supplement if you're even if you're reading the lessons, but you want to kind of get refreshed, to overuse that word. Going through the audio version is a great way to supplement the learning. Or if you're someone who's super busy and on the go, listening to it first can provide you all the context you need to then work on your workbook. So if you spend a lot of time on the road, on the go, listening to the lessons and carrying the workbook with you can be a really rewarding and just as rich experience. And then you just have to come back to the classroom and mark everything complete. Because that helps you give that sense of satisfaction, and it also helps tell us who's moving through the class, what percentage of students, and we want to make sure that anyone who has finished the class, we send an evaluation to. All right, so here's where we're going to list any Q&A sessions. We have a date up for March so far. March is, of course, our getting started month. In the future, I'm looking to have about 2 of these a month. Some of them may be chat rooms, some of them may be live video like this. We're going to test out some different formats. And eventually, I'll probably have a full calendar here. But for now, a bullet point is just fine. All right, now we have like the actual course classroom. Now, when you first come to this page, it's going to look like this, where it's all collapsed. And each of these are the 5, basically, they're called lessons. They're really modules. It's a container for your learning. And we start with the orientation, and then we go through the 4 key questions of this process. What do you love to do? How do you want to spend your time? What do you need to release? And where do you go from here? And it was so important to me to make sure that this was not only a rich and rewarding experience that produced so many light bulb moments, but that you knew exactly what to do next. So you can click here to expand all, and this is where you see each individual lesson. Anywhere you can click in here and see a duplicate of this in your left sidebar, and I'll show you that in just a second. I'm not going to walk through step by step the orientation section because it's pretty self-explanatory, but there's a couple things that I do want to highlight. One is that we do have many different opportunities for support. If you need tech support anytime, you can go to this help button in the bottom right-hand corner. Something's not working, you have a question about access to another class, anything that's related to your purchases or how something is functioning, that's what you want to ask there. You can also leave comments directly below each of the individual topics, and whether it's with a comment to your learning or a question, and we will make sure those get answered. Or you can attend one of our Q&A sessions to make sure that you can get that deeper one-on-one support with the issues that you're facing. And then also in this section, I wanted to highlight the permission slip. And you may have encountered this in other classes as well, but to me, it's really important to start an experience committing to following through, and that public statement of commitment, there's a lot of power to that. And I don't want to, it's for some, it may seem a little hokey, but in my experience and the experience I've witnessed with my students, it really does work to help you feel that sense of obligation and accountability to follow through. Unfortunately, this is a very doable experience to start with, but signing that permission slip is a really important step. So I'll click there real quick. So here we are in the sign your permission slip. And this is where you can see you have the sidebar, and the arrows can be toggled up and down to see the classes, to see each individual topic. And we can see we've already had 58 people sign their permission slip. So that's pretty exciting to see that so many people are really committing to this process. And then, of course, once you do that, you press the button Mark Complete. So it's thinking, internet's working here. And there you can see you have a little blue ball, just so that step is complete and your progress bar has begun. At any time, you can visit the homeroom button to go all the way back to that main classroom page. But for now, we're going to jump into the what do you love to do section. And really this section was almost the foundation of this class, the place that I wanted to start. And it's answering the question, what do you want to do with your photos? And both lesson 2 and lesson 3 really go there. So we'll dig into your big why. And I did something here that I think is kind of clever. It was partly intentional. And you'll notice in every lesson we have a quote to start you off and really kind of give you context, the introduction to the prompts. But in this one, this is where we have your course project. I didn't want to have a lot of different big activities here because, again, I wanted this to be a very doable experience. And I really feel like that a layout, a pocket page, even a mini book about your hobby and where you've been and why it's important to you is one of the most important products you can create. But it's also a way to just fire you up and get you excited about scrapbooking again. So it combines that more meta-reflective experience with actual creating, which, has a snowball effect. And so what I say in this red box here is that if you're feeling resistance, I want you to not do all of this right now. You can go on, work through the workbook, do the class, and then keep making progress on your project. And hopefully by the end, you're finishing the class and the project. And I did this for one particular reason, is that at every stage, whether you're during this class or you've already moved beyond it, when you have questions, the first thing I want you to return to is your big why. Why is scrapbooking important to you? Why do you do it? What do you get out of it? Everyone's answer is going to be completely different. Everyone has their own kind of unique mix of, the creative, self-care, kind of personal time aspects, and the memory keeping, legacy, obligation, but in that positive way aspects. Everyone has their own unique combination of why they are a scrapbooker. And whenever you get stuck, I want you to return to this. And so even through this class, that's why the course project is here, is because I want you to return to your big why. All right. Okay. Let's go into stories you capture. So this is where I have you do this photo study, because without photos, yes, we could tell stories and we would be journalers, and we can even be creative journalers or art journalers. But it's the photos that make it a scrapbook. And there's so much you can learn about your season of life, your approach to scrapbooking, your approach to photography, how you view the world through your photographs. And similar to your big why, coming back to these fundamentals is what's most important. And I know that from my own experience, whenever I get stuck, whenever I feel like I'm in a creative funk, when I'm not able to move forward, I just need to go back to my photo library to reconnect with the beauty of my life and what's going on, and how much I easily forget, and how important it is to have this hobby that's not only enjoyable but significant to my life story. And so that's why this lesson is really important to me, and I think is a really pivotal one in this process. All right, next we have project perspective. Excuse me, I'm just having some iced coffee here. And this is kind of a twist on a lesson we've done before, but it's very much a new lesson. And what I'm asking you to do is thinking about all the formats that you've tried and been working on recently, whether that's in this past year or even longer than that, and ask about each phase of this process. Is it a struggle or is it a joy? And not everything is going to be super easy, but if you're facing too much struggle, that's the kind of, we've been talking a little bit about paddling upstream in your hobby. And if there's too much struggle, there's too much resistance, you might not be aligned with what works best for you. And so I want you to look at the creative process, the thinking, the planning and the preparation, the shopping, and then the doing, the being in the middle of a project, being able to put it down and pick it back up again with enthusiasm. And then the final result as you look back a day or 6 months or a year later. How do you feel about that project? How much pride do you have? And where you have the most joy throughout the creative process, that's where you're going to find the most flow in your creativity. And this particular topic connects very directly to what we'll do in lesson 3 with your pie chart of creative joy. Because first you have to understand kind of which of these formats bring you joy, and then you have to figure out how much time you want to dedicate to each. Because you're probably going to have multiple things that you like doing. Most of us do, and that's where we get stuck, because we constantly feel pulled. But if then we can take the universe of things we enjoy most and break that down into, well, I want to spend most of my time on Pocket Pages, for example, then you can constantly be looking at how you are spending your time and making sure you stay in that sense of alignment. All right, let's go to lesson 3. So now we're in the how do you want to spend your time? And this question, the if you could start over question, is one of my absolute favorites, and one that I've got the most feedback on over the past few years that we've been doing this. And it's this question of, if you were to start scrapbooking today with no supplies and no completed albums, but knowing everything that you do now and having all that wisdom, how would you approach this hobby? And for most of us, we will have a long list of reasons why we couldn't actually do that. And of course, we can tease those apart later. But there's so much just deep wisdom you can gain from asking that question, because you can take these baby steps to get closer to that vision of making small tweaks and course corrections to really live out this feeling that you want to get from scrapbooking that maybe you aren't already having. So this is one of my favorite questions, and if you've not done it before, I hope it becomes one of your favorites as well. All right, now we have the pie chart of creative joy. This is kind of a fun one because you get to use your colored pencils and draw in a circle in your workbook and really think about the types of activities you do as a scrapbooker. And I have to include photo management, memorabilia management, not just the creative parts. How do you want to be spending your limited amount of time in your hobby? And in the end, this is going to give you a lens through which to view choices and vet new opportunities, as we've talked about before, but also to really think about where true simplicity or efficiency is needed. Because if you want to spend, say, most of your time doing pocket pages because you really enjoy it, it works well for you, you find a ton of flow, it fills you up, you have no challenges with it, then there's no reason to simplify that further. But let's say, for example, your pie chart looks different than mine and photo management isn't fun for you. It's actually not fun and you want to spend 5 to 10% on photo management, then you need to find ways to streamline that and simplify it so that it's easier for you and it can fit within that time. You know, that's been one of the biggest misconceptions about how we define simple. And of course, there's various ways we can talk about it, but it's not just about productivity. It's about this kind of sense of optimization so that you're saving time in some areas so that you can spend more of it in others. And that goes for your entire life as well. You know, often it's not the simplicity in scrapbooking that we need to focus on. It's simplicity elsewhere in our lives, trying to make things more efficient so that we can carve out time to rest and relax and really just be in the moment with our creativity. All right. So that was the pie chart. And now we go to the personal project profile. And this is another one of the new lessons and probably the one that I'm the most excited about. And what this asks you to do is to create this basically a mission statement or a set of values for your hobby. And I'm feeling a little speechless on this one because when I tested this with our creative team, there were so many light bulb moments because this is a very simple exercise that you've already gathered the data through your other lessons, and now you're going to write the statement. But how many other times have you done that before? Really tried to wrap up your entire scrapbooking hobby in just a few sentences. And this to me is one of the most important parts of the class because this statement is something that you can refer to again and again. For those of you who have made a creative hub, you know, a planner of for your entire scrapbooking hobby and often for your other crafts as well, this is your PPP is something to put in your creative hub because it's this deep statement that is sufficiently simple, but ultimately something you can refer back to again and again to make sure that you're acting in alignment with your values. All right, so I hope you guys really enjoy that one as much as I have. I love seeing the responses shared so far, and I can't wait to see what else you guys think about that. All right, and then we have the ideal creative routine. So this is where we start trying to get more practical for you, because it's great to have these kind of more lofty visions of what's ideal and how do we want to spend our time. But when the rubber meets the road, it has to actually fit into your real life. And that's one of the ways that scrapbookers get stuck. So what I'm having you do here is think about your past. How often have you scrapbooked in the past? When do you normally try to get it fitted in? How is that working for you? And then compare that to the ideal and start trying to draw threads between, okay, if you're scrapbooking once a month, but you'd like to be doing it once a week, how do you get from A to B? And looking at when you have the most creative energy is one of the very best ways to do that, because if you can bring your scrapbooking to that time when you have the most creative energy, at least some of the time, and I know it can be really hard with busy schedules, but if you can do that, you're going to find less resistance, less procrastination, less feeling stuck, and overall, you're going to feel like you have more time because you're using your time better. And it can also give you clues to other shifts that you need to make. For example, I had been trying to scrapbook in the evenings after my daughter went to bed, but I was finding that that's when I had the least creative energy because I was feeling tapped out from the day. I've already made a lot of decisions, and so I didn't want to make more decisions. And so I do have ways of tricking myself by having things more set up, basically making all the decisions before I sit down, and that can work. But I also decided maybe I should just try to shift my schedule so that I'm using that time when I don't have creative energy to do something else. And that's when I decided to go to the gym. And because I wasn't being productive in my world, I wasn't even really enjoying any kind of like consumption of relaxing media because I was just, tired. But going to the gym has changed that. And now I have more energy in the rest of my day to spend on my creativity, and I'm better able to fit in my crafting time. All right, now we're going to go on to the what do you need to release section. And I debated a lot about whether or not this step needed to be in there. But ultimately, I think that there's a lot of mental conversations. There's a lot of stories we tell ourselves. There's a lot of connections we may not be making or things we may not be thinking about that are impacting our ability to create as much as we would like. And so these simple steps of letting go, I think, prepares you to actually take the action from all of this wisdom that you've gained in lessons 2 and 3. So the new rules of scrapbooking topic here really connects what I wrote in my book with basically the fundamental principles of why we need new rules. Why you need to write your own rules is because either the industry or friends or even yourself has told you that this is how it should be. This is the right way. This is the way you need to be a scrapbooker. But none of that is really true. You get to write those rules. And so I'm challenging you here to think about ways that you might have said, I could never be a digital scrapbooker. I could never scrapbook in the morning. I could never learn to take better photos with my DSLR. I could never create a 1-photo page. I could never write more than a sentence of journaling. So whether you said those words or not, you've told yourself a story about what you can't or you think you shouldn't do. And here I'm challenging you to try to basically rebut yourself. So if there's something that you think you could never do, I want you to repeatedly try to dissect that and basically convince yourself that you're wrong, that you've run out of excuses and you actually could do this. And maybe it's that you just don't want to, it's not a priority, but you need to kind of eliminate excuses because in a lot of cases, you're going to find that you really can. And this is almost a test of can you embrace the new rules? Can you commit to defining scrapbooking and defining what your hobby looks like in your own way? And I think I know this one's a little bit more challenging, and I want you to kind of understand that it's supposed to be, and you may not have complete clarity right away. But I also think this is very powerful, and I know that it has helped me make changes because I was able to kind of have that mental conversation with myself about debunking all of my excuses, because eventually you will run out and you will be able to have that confidence that you can make whatever choice that you want. All right, now we shift to season of life. And this one is really kind of the big picture season of life question. Where are you at in your life? Whether you have young children at home, you're an empty nester, you're just starting out in your career. Maybe you are taking care of lots of grandchildren, or maybe you have a lot of time on your hands. So everyone's going to be at a very, very different stage of life. And that is one of the most important things that can impact how much time, how much energy, how much money you have for scrapbooking. And when you accept that, you're able to make decisions about what is enough for you. Because, this goes back to the new rules. We have this vision of this is what a scrapbooker does. This is how she should approach the hobby. But when you start thinking about the season of life, you can redefine the boundaries of what a good year of scrapbooking is going to look like for you. That could be making 1 photo book, or it could be making 200 pages. What that looks like is going to be totally different for you, but I want you to be able to step into it and accept that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have at my disposal. And that connects back to the quote here, and that I'm making decisions that are rooted in my reality. And that's how I know that I'm going to find a lot of success, because I'm not ignoring the fact that, I have all these obligations, or I'm not ignoring the fact that now I have more time, so I should be really digging in deeper. So that's an important context for where we're going to go next in the lesson 5. And then finally, we have the letting go list. And this is just really just taking stock of all the conversations you've had with yourself so far, and listing at least 5 things you need to let go of. And this is going to look really different. Some of you may have mostly intangible, expectations you need to let go of. And some of you may have more specific, like you need to let go of weekly project life, or that mini album you never finished, or maybe a combination of both of those. But we all have things that we need to basically get off our shoulders so that we can move forward in our hobby and feel comfortable focusing just on our priorities. All right, we're going to go now into lesson 5, the where do you go from here. So we are the last section here, and it will be time to take questions, maybe in about 5 minutes or so. So if you do have questions, please put them in the comments box, and I'm looking forward to having a good discussion here at the end. So the seasonal status check, this is part of this whole seasonal planning process, and this is where you start really thinking about right now, not just the big picture of you as a scrapbooker, but what's exciting you right in this moment, and what's going on in your life in these 3 months. So this is where you connect all that big picture, all of that wisdom to your right now. And then in the priorities and action items, that is then where you start making choices, where you narrow down the full universe of everything that you could be doing. And we all have long lists because we're scrapbookers and we find this, we get jazzed up about it. And where you have to narrow it down to just 3 things or 5 things. This is where you have to focus on what's doable for you in the next 3 months. And then break it down even further into specific action items that have a time bracket on them that you can do in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. Because when you connect everything that's important to you and all this wisdom to specific tasks, you'll be able to do them and feel confident that you're on the right track and that you are building a library of memories that you can truly be proud of, and that you will feel that less sense of guilt and overwhelm that you're not doing enough, because you're doing the best that you can. All right, so now we have process simplification. And really this is just a message that, to me, this journey is just the beginning. There's so many other things we have at Simple Scrapper to help you continue your experience, to find more simplicity in specific areas, whether that's photo management, whether that's organization, whether that's your page design, or really any other facet of your hobby. And that with the wisdom that you've gained, you're able to better know what you need to hone your skills even further. And then finally, we have this last invitation that if you're not already a member, to join the wait list so that you can be part of our seasonal refresh retreats, because this experience sets you up perfectly to be able to take your planning day and really embrace it and know what to do, and then be able to come into the refresh retreat fully grounded in your hobby, so that you can have some fun and connect with other women and get yourself organized and reset for another 3 months of scrapbooking. So I see people doing this experience, probably not more than once a year, but it depends. It could be a good December, January activity. But from time to time, you're going to want to come back and go through this so that you can get that big picture stability. But then we have this whole system that will continue to keep you engaged and connected to all this information you put in your workbook every single season. All right, that was my overview of the class. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this. And now it's time to really dig into some questions. I don't see any questions here yet. I do have some comments from Jan. She's super appreciative and hopes we have a wonderful year. And she really, really loves the planner pages. And so what you've seen, if you've been around here for a while, you know, in the membership, we have a variety of different planner pages that basically take the next step from here and allow you to take the information you put in your workbook and translate that into a reference guide that you can use again and again. It's kind of the optional next step. And I love options, and I know you guys all love options because everyone does things so differently, whether it's using digital planning tools or analog planning tools. Some people love printables, some people hate them. And so we try to give you a lot of different options to customize this experience because that's fundamental to what we're about here. So I'm going to stop the live stream and go back to me. Hey guys. So I want to thank you for going through this tour with me. I hope you got some additional insights on kind of what I was thinking when I wrote these lessons and what I want you to take away from them. I'm going to check, see if we have any questions here. So this is your chance to ask me anything you want about any kind of clarity you're looking for in your hobby. If you're having trouble kind of figuring out what works best for you, this is a good time to kind of tease some of that apart. We can do some live kind of coaching here on maybe what you need. And I don't want you to be, definitely don't be nervous to ask anything. Check some other, if there's another, all right. So as I said, we are going to do regular Q&A sessions, and that's kind of the model that we're going to be using for all of our self-study classes. In addition to Simple Scrapbooking School, we have the finishing project, which helps you finish one project, but also in the process learn how to be a better finisher of projects in general. And then we also have Before Your Story, which is a larger album project to tell your growing up story from birth to adulthood in one album that combines pocket pages and layouts. And we're also thinking about doing a couple of things later this year and into next year. But our model here is that classes will be primarily self-paced, but that we will have ongoing Q&A sessions to help you ask me questions, and so you can find clarity and get answers, and also connect with your fellow students. All right. So we don't have any questions yet, but we're going to keep going here. One of the things that I want you guys to know, I know a lot of you here are already members, but if you're not a member yet and you've taken this class, as I've said, you're kind of in the perfect position to kind of take that next step and join our community on an ongoing basis. And we do have a membership enrollment period opening up at the end of March. And so I hope you're kind of tuned into that and that you've joined the wait list, because we've really set this up with this class being the first step, the way for you to understand kind of how we do things here, some of the lingo we use, how we're using the word planning and organizing, and the importance of really taking that pause to think, because some people really love it, and those of you who love it, or those are the ones who become members, and if it wasn't your thing, then that's cool too. But then the best way to really stay connected to this is to become a member so that you can get access to those refresh retreats and our huge library of creative resources. Every month we put out an issue of Spark magazine, which has an exclusive article from me, as well as beautiful layouts from our creative team, new sketches and prompts, and we kind of try to give you a single source of information to inspire your next pages every single month, so that you don't have to grab it from too many different places and constantly be feeling overwhelmed. You have something to use as a launch point every single month, and a way to get reconnected with, you know, your creativity without having to be drowning in the internet. It's all about keeping it simple for us, and finding, you know, all the different definitions of simple. I know there's many of you who've been members for a very long time. We've had this program since 2010 now. And so I'm deeply appreciative to all those who've been part of our community and really have made it such a vibrant, lovely place. We have an exclusive member Facebook group, and it continues to be the place that I go for my own inspiration. We're really big on kind of connecting with each other on how's it going, what victories are you celebrating, and what's your next step, what challenges are you facing. And we really emphasize this. Once you have this knowledge of how you work and what works best for you, the people and the community is what can keep you going and help you keep remembering that and implementing that, so that you can make pages and have fun along the way and get stuck less often. All right. So a couple kind of things that I've been thinking about is that I've had questions of, are you going to do the workbook in a digital format? Are you going to, are you going to do a fill-in PDF workbook? And with all of our classes, I'm always thinking about what is the very best experience that I can give you. And I often will, as much as I love options, I will often give you a very specific set of options, an A and B, or sometimes A, B, and C, so that you can not lose too much energy by making choices. But also I want you to get a lot out of the experience. And this one, because it's so reflective, I really think that printing out the workbook, writing it by hand, bringing your colored pencils to do your pie chart, and making other doodles and making it as creative as you would like, really is the best experience, because this is about scrapbooking. If this was about a different topic, if it was even more personal about your life, I might do it a little bit differently. If it was meant to be shared, I might do it a little differently. But for every single activity, I try to tailor the experience so that you're getting the most out of it. All right, here. Well, if nobody has any questions, I will respect your time and we'll end early. I'm going to give people just one last chance to ask questions, because that's what I really am here for, is to make sure that you are super clear on what's going on, and you understand how this class really fits into your overall experience. I can foresee over time we'll be improving this. I anticipate having this as a kind of a flagship signature experience for a really long time. I'm really looking forward to bringing more and more people through this class, because I know that it provides that setting the stage for any other touch that you have with Simple Scrapper. If you go through this, you'll kind of get how we think about things, how I think about things, and the types of questions that I'll be asking you in other types of classes. All right, here. So what we have coming up the rest of this month, I don't have my calendar in front of me to refer to, but there's going to be quite a bit of fun content coming up. We're kind of on a theme right now of the creating more consistently. This came up in our recent book club. Last month we read Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, and the discussion was so enlightening for me, because instead of framing the question of what is your biggest challenge, or what are you struggling with right now, I asked, what is one thing that you want to change in your hobby? And so a smaller portion of people said they want to learn how to do digital scrapbooking. And we're actually going to do that as a content series in April. But there was a big portion of participants who said they wanted to create more consistently. And of course you do. But we've never talked about it in so many words. And so that you'll see that there's blog posts and emails and Facebook Lives going on all about this idea of how do you create more consistently? What types of tools and support and what types of habits do you need to have to create more consistently? And you guys have already done the huge first step, which is Simple Scrapbooking School. That taking this class is a fundamental to creating more consistently, because having these answers solves so many problems of why you don't create more consistently, because you're misaligned with your project formats. You're swimming upstream and it doesn't work. You're not trying to create in the right time of the day because your creative energy is completely sapped. So this is definitely a fundamental, and then hopefully the content we'll kind of add on from there. Well, I appreciate you guys so much who are watching live. For those who are watching in a replay, please feel free to reach out to me in other ways, whether that's on Facebook or even by email, to ask any questions you have about Simple Scrapbooking School. I deeply appreciate you being one of our pre-sale purchasers. This class was very much a labor of love, something that I've been working on, gosh, from the very beginning. The first idea was really more than a year ago. And I'm so proud that it's out in the world now and that we have students going through it. So I am here for you for whatever you need. And I hope it's a rich and rewarding experience that really influences how you think about scrapbooking this year and for years to come. Again, this is Jennifer Wilson for Simple Scrapper, and thank you for being here this morning.